Welcome to Emotions and Stories. Have you ever encountered a 5-second incident which leaves you absolutely stressed, sweating, and breathless? Let's start today's story on one such incident, the black cat. Megha was not a superstitious girl, or so she liked to think. As a 20-year-old college student in Delhi, she prided herself on being practical and logical. But when it came to black cats crossing her path, logic flew out the window faster than a metro train during the rush hour. That morning, Megha was already running late for her economics lecture. She dashed out of her house, her backpack swinging wildly as she tried to scarf down the last bite of her toast. The clock on her phone read 8:45 a.m. and her class was at 9 a.m. sharp. Just as she reached the end of her street, it happened. A sleek, black cat darted across the road, pausing for a split second to glare at her with its green menacing eyes before vanishing into the bushes. Megha froze, toast halfway to her mouth. Her heartbeat quickened. Oh no, 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 not today, she whispered to herself. Her grandmother's voice rang in her head. If a black cat crosses your path, it's bad luck. Don't use that road. Megha usually dismissed such advice as old-fashioned nonsense, but today, the words clung to her like a sticky toffee. Okay, think, she muttered, pacing in place. I'll just take the next lane. What's the worst that can happen? With newfound determination, Megha took a sharp left into a narrow, unfamiliar lane. It was a quieter street lined with small shops still opening for the day. She congratulated herself on being adaptable. See, problem solved, she thought. But a few meters in, she encountered her first obstacle. A vegetable cart blocking the entire road. The vendor was leisurely arranging his tomatoes while an old lady haggled over the price of spinach. "Excuse me, bhaiya," she called out. "Can you move the cart, please?" The vendor barely glanced at her. "Madam, I will move it after this customer." Megha tapped her foot impatiently, her watch now reading 8:50 a.m. "Great," she muttered. "I'm officially gonna be late because of spinach." After what felt like an eternity, but was probably 2 or 3 minutes, the cart finally moved and Megha sprinted ahead. The next challenge arrived in the form of a massive cow lounging smack in the middle of the lane. Its serene, chewing, and unbothered demeanor stood in stark contrast to Meghna's growing panic. "Of course," she groaned. Why not?" She tried clapping her hands and shouting, "Hush, hush, hush!" But the cow simply stared at her as if mocking her urgency. Megha contemplated going back to the main road, black cat or not, but her pride wouldn't let her admit defeat. She decided to squeeze past the cow carefully, tiptoeing as if it were a sleeping dragon. Just as she was about to make it, the cow flicked its tail, hitting her squarely in the face. "Seriously?" yelped Megha, wiping her face and jogging away as fast as she could. As she exited the lane, she found herself on a slightly busier road, relieved to see some semblance of normalcy. That relief was short-lived, however, as a rickshaw screeched to a halt right in front of her. "Madam, where to?" the driver asked, grinning as if he had saved her life. "Not now, bhaiya," she snapped. "I'm walking." But the rickshaw driver was persistent. "Walking? Madam, why waste time? It's only 20 rupees for the ride." "Do I look like I have time for this conversation?" Megha retorted, sidestepping him and breaking into a brisk jog. Behind her, the driver muttered something about how people these days didn't value good deals. Megha was finally making progress when she stepped into what she thought was a shallow puddle. Spoiler alert, it wasn't shallow. With a loud splash, her right shoe sank into the muddy water, soaking her sock and splattering her jeans. Megha stood frozen, staring at her now brown streaked shoe in disbelief. "This can't be happening," she whispered, gritting her teeth. She hopped onto the sidewalk trying to shake off the mud, but it only smeared further. A passing cyclist snickered, which only fueled her frustration. "I swear, if I ever see that cat again," she muttered, hobbling forward. Desperate to make up for the lost time, Megha decided to take a shortcut through a park. She reasoned that cutting through the greenery would save her at least 5 minutes. But alas, that wasn't the plan for the day. Halfway through the park, she realized she had miscalculated the exits. What she thought was a clear path that led straight to the main road was actually a fenced-off garden. She tried to retrace her steps only to find herself face to face with a group of morning joggers who looked at her as if she was an alien. "Shortcut my foot," she grumbled, finally finding her way out and back onto the road. By the time Megha reached the last turn to her college, it was already 9:10 a.m. She broke into a sprint, ignoring the honking cars and curious stares from the passers-by. Her hair was a mess, her jeans were still muddy, and she was pretty sure she smelled like cow tail. As she approached the college gates, the guard was about to close the door and she sprinted past through him, running as fast as she could, right up to her class. The lecturer was already in the class and the class had begun. Looking at her, the professor shook his head and allowed her entry. As she finally managed to sit beside her best friend Ria, she took a sigh of relief. "Where were you? Class started 15 minutes ago," said Ria. "It's a long story. Let's just say I just took a scenic, adventurous route to class today." Later that day, as Megha recounted her misadventures to Ria over chai in the canteen, she couldn't help but laugh at herself. A 5-second incident had left her sweating and panting for no reason. Sometimes taking stress is not helpful. So Ria started. "All this because of a black cat?" "Yeah," exclaimed Megha. "And I'm never doing it again. Next time, I'll just cross the road like a normal person and take my chances with bad luck." Ria laughed and said, "Smart choice. But honestly, I think the cat was least of your problems today." And they both laughed. I hope you enjoyed today's story and you in your life can avoid such 5-second incidences for a stressful day. Thank you.